Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have a really exciting product update that we're really thrilled to be able to take you through. We have, by popular demand, have added some more elements to our course building function so that you can make more engaging content really, really easily. And we have Mark Schuster here today who's going to show you through that. And of course, Mark's not only our head of product, but Mark is a longtime content training person. So he's not only just going to show you how they work, he's going to show you how to get the most effective use out of them. As always, please use the Q&A to submit your questions. Mark and I will both be watching for those, and we'll try to answer them in real time as best we can. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mark.
Great. Thank you, Caitlin. And great to be here to talk about all of the updates to our content builder, as we're now calling it, for our course content, and really how to create engaging content, not just in our platform, but whenever you're creating content. And that's really a passion area for me. As Caitlin mentioned, I've been in the L&D space for a number of years and have presented on this topic at various Learning Guild events and such over the years. So happy to be able to talk about this a little bit more and tie it into the updates that we've been working on here at CYPHER. So the first thing I want to talk about is understanding the concept of learning styles. So if you have a background in instructional design, you're familiar with a lot of this. It's been talked about for decades of the different types of learning styles, but it's sometimes a little bit of a controversy. So we see that things through four different styles of learning: visual, which is graphs, charts, images; through oral, which is listening, that's the traditional lecture approach to understand things; through reading, the traditional textbook approach; and then kinesthetic learning, which is learning by doing. And over the years, there's been a lot of different thoughts on how learning styles work and how to best use them through our learning activities. What really comes to mind today, though, is that people don't have one learning style. So you are not a visual learner. People say that all the time: I'm a visual learner. Well, you may prefer visual, but in reality, all of us learn in all of these different ways. Some of us have a preference one way or another. Personally, I am more of a kinesthetic learner than anything else. But what happens is we have to mix and match these in order to make content more engaging, or to make sure everyone gets as much out of it as is possible. What we see in the industry, though, is we get very set with trends. So for the last few years, we have seen so much video-based training, and that's hitting a little bit of your visual learning and a little bit of your oral learning. So because it was easy to create your own videos and have desktop editing of videos, all of a sudden training is videos, and we need a video on that. We need a video on that. And we see so much of that that has been out there, and it was easy. So the actual training that was going out shifted from a more traditional reading approach to that video approach. Unfortunately, that leaves other types of learning styles out, so that can become a challenge. But we also have to look at how that impacts your learning when it's all in one style like that. What we see, though, with technology changes is now we're seeing a lot of move back to text-based content. Why? Because AI text generation is so easy. So now that's the latest technology and trend that we can use to make things easier. But is that the best? Because now you're only hitting the reading side of things. So we're going to take a look at how that all plays together. And when you're talking about your learners, a big part of that is understanding who they are, and more importantly, where they are. So we call that a device context. This is your attention span. And it's interesting to see how this has changed over time as our minds have adapted to new devices. So about 15 years ago, I did a presentation on at the advent of mobile learning, when people were first starting to use their phone. And these numbers on what the attention span for a device was were completely different. A desktop was about 2 minutes, a tablet was about a minute, and a phone was 30 seconds. And things have completely flipped as we've gotten used to watching short form videos on our phones. That has changed a little bit as we've gotten used to. I read books on my tablet. That attention span has gotten a little bit longer. And as we've gotten used to multitasking a lot more as we're working on our computer, all of a sudden, the attention span on a desktop or laptop that was the gold standard for long attention span before is the smallest. 47 seconds is what the average person is able to pay attention to what's on their screen before they're going to get distracted and do something else or lose focus. And that's really what we need to be able to address. What's the cause of all of this? So some of it is just our innate nature to move around and look at different things, but it's also about cognitive overload. So that's the fancy term for saying you're overwhelmed. So when you see a lot of this long form information, it gets cluttered. It becomes a heavy mental effort to understand. And the more complex the subject it is, the more likely it is to create that overwhelmed feeling. And that then harms your ability to maintain that information in your head. So, one of the things that we look at then is the wall of text effect now. And this is a huge ball of text that's going through and has nothing but text to read. And 27 seconds in on my laptop, I'm lost. So that overwhelms, it discourages learners. Breaking it up helps to improve understanding and learner engagement. So let's take a look at our new content builder and see how we can start to address this effect using our new content builder. So I am now in our platform here, and we're going to go to that same lesson that you just saw. And we're going to take a look at our new content builder. You notice this one does have an image in here that I've added in since then, but otherwise, this is still a lot of text that becomes very difficult for someone to engage in and be able to actually learn from. So our new content builder will be available here in the next 2 weeks. And this is going to change the way you edit content in our platform. You'll see that all of the same functionality that you're used to today for being able to edit the text content, add in images, add in videos, link out to web conferences, all of that is still there. That none of that is changing, but we've added in a new widget-based structure that allows you to have more interactivity and allows you to easily add that in without having to be a programmer. So it's designed for a simplified day-to-day operation as you go through this. So we're going to try and reduce a little bit of the cognitive overload, the feeling of being overwhelmed as we see this layout. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at some of these layout elements. So we have a column element and a grid element. A column obviously is just straight columns. A grid is rows and columns. So you can adjust both of those as you go through. We'll start off here with a column. And I'm going to drag that over here, and you can see it gives me a blue line on where I want to drop that into. And now I have two new edit boxes for the two different columns that are in here. And I'm going to take this image that is here, and I'm going to put it within one of the columns. So we break this up so it is more visually appealing and less overwhelming on a left to right space. For sake of ease, I'm just going to go in here and find that image, and we'll delete the other one so we don't have to worry about dragging and adjusting. You can see, as always, I have the ability to add in an image description. which helps with your accessibility. I can adjust the dimensions of it. This will also automatically adjust within the columns to fit the columns. So I'm going to leave it as that. I don't have to know what pixel width I want. It's just going to automatically adjust within that column. So we're going to do a left column with that image. I can go down here and just delete that image because I don't need it anymore. And then we're going to take this text that was here and just a block of text, and we're going to put that in this column here. So we have our text that's here now with two different paragraphs. The image on the left, we're going to clear out that extra empty space there. And we can now see a little bit more of a breakdown in this that can make it easier to reduce the impact of seeing that wall of text. Now, within the platform, I can also preview this before I go live with it. So if I hit the preview, I now see it as a learner would see it. I can see I've got all of that additional text over here. I see that in my current setup, this is a little bit longer image than it is text, so I might want to adjust that. I can also certainly go through and check different sizes and resize my browser to see what it looks like on mobile versus what it looks like on a desktop. But for now, we'll leave it there. I will go in here and I'm just going to make that image just a little bit smaller so it looks a little bit better on my computer here, and everything is looking very good. So doing that has made it a little bit more broken up, so it's not as intensive of a look there. The other thing that we can look at is how do we break out some of this other text. So we're going to go back into our editor. And again, you see I've got so much text down here. And things like this example are going to get lost as we go through all of that. It's just hard to find. It needs to be broken up more. So I'm going to add in a callout text. And once I add that in, there are different types that can be added in here with different layouts, slightly different coloring. And you can see there's an example one. So since I already have this example, I'm going to copy that text. And I'm going to put it in here. And we'll delete the original. So now we see a breakout of that. So the chunk of text is easier to see, and it is broken out more. We go into preview. We still see that up at the top. We now see that example really brought out, so I can have more visual note to this, and it makes it much easier to see. So the main thing to think about as you're looking at this wall of text and how do you break it up is that the human mind in general is able to handle 4 to 7 chunks of information at a time. That's it. When you start to get into these large lists like this, the mind struggles to comprehend it. So we want to try and keep it to 4 to 7 of these. Like this is a lot of information yet, and just restructuring it isn't necessarily going to address all of it. So we're going to look at the next part of how to handle this overwhelming sense when you've got this much information. And we're going to look at progressive disclosure. So progressive disclosure means taking chunks of information and dividing them into smaller bites that are revealed over time. So when you've got a lot of information that is displayed at one time, you want to take it and break it into smaller chunks that can be moved one after another and allow the brain to process that. So progressive disclosure, we also have a number of new widgets that will assist with. So we're going to look at this next section here of customer-centric versus product-centric versus sales-centric habits. And we see a lot of information in there. So we're going to take that. Oh, I'm still in the preview mode. My apologies. Let's try that again. So we're going to now add in tabs. and help to break that out. So we put in our tabs here, and now we can break this section that is down here with 3 different topics, and we can have 3 different tabs. I can add more tabs, I can remove tabs, whatever I need to do. But we're going to start off, we're going to put in this product-centric habits, and we're going to copy that information and replace the content there. We're going to take our sales-centric habits, and we're going to replace that text as well. And then finally, we'll take our customer-centric habits, and put that there. So now we can get rid of all of this original text that was so overwhelming. And we have a nice, simple area where things are broken out. So again, if we go up and preview what this looks like, now instead of being a giant list of text, I have an introduction paragraph. I've got a quick overview here, and then I see my tabs where I can quickly reveal this information as it goes along and not feel as overwhelmed as a learner. So other ways can be used as well to chop this up so it's not just a bunch of tabs and working through all of that. So let's go back to our editor, and we're going to scroll much further down. There's obviously a lot we could still do here, but we have 3 everyday work scenarios down here with customer-centric alternatives. So rather than using 3 tabs again, we're going to bring over an accordion. So in this case, there's 2 accordion items that are ready here. We've got 3. So I'm going to add a 3rd line here. So we start off, so we've got scenario 1, updating a process. And we're going to expand that. And we're going to get rid of that, bring that text up here. We have scenario 2, prioritizing a backlog. We add that text in. And then finally, we have scenario 3, handling a policy decision. Expand that. And we'll pull that last text in there. Again, we'll get rid of this extra text that was there previously. And we're going to go back and preview. Again, we see that same thing on the top. We still have some stuff in the middle that gets very heavy on text. But then as we get down to the bottom here, I can quickly reveal this information and be able to handle that additional load of information as it comes through. So that is a look at being able to do progressive disclosure to control the content and make it easier for people to find. I'll continue on here in just a second, but I do have a question on for styling of columns via the HTML editor. So we do still support the ability to access source code, but in most cases, everything that you need to do now is available here within the platform. So I can adjust gaps, I can add additional columns, I can change the columns so they stack vertically instead of horizontally. All of that can be done. I can change the alignment of whether they're top centered or bottom aligned. All of that is now manageable directly within the visual editor. So you generally will not need to go into source code in order to do that. So after progressive disclosure, we're now going to look at the power of discovery. And this really gets back into the learning styles that we talked about earlier. So the power of discovery is allowing active participation and revealing of information. That helps to improve retention. So this is where we get into the different learning styles and the kinesthetic learning. So as much as you can read and learn, if you're actively engaging and clicking to reveal information, that helps to improve the retention of information. That also helps to increase that attention span. So we talked about on a desktop, the attention span is 47 seconds. So you want to have something that the learner needs to participate in every 47 seconds to keep them engaged. So that's where a lot of our other elements can come in. So if we go back into our content, we're still in the editor mode. And we're going to come down here, and we still have a lot of text through this area where it's going to be really hard to read and retain all of that information. So we're going to take this next section here, and rather than having it set up as bullets, we're going to use a flip card, a flip box or flashcard. And to do that, we're going to bring in a grid here. In this case, I've got two topics, and so I only need one row. So I'll remove that first row. And then I'm going to drag a flip box into each column here. And we're going to add in the text here. So we're going to put the header of these areas on the front of the cards. And then the learner will click to reveal the information to help engage them. So I'm going to click the flip button to see the back of the card. And now I'm going to take that text that's there and paste that in here. All right, so we've got that. We'll go ahead and remove that other text. So we again simplify that display. And now we're going to go back into preview mode. So you can see we've got our tabs again here. We've got bullets in this case. And now we have these flip cards to be able to engage and force the learner to actively participate in revealing information. So that's one way that we can engage through that active participation. Obviously, using things like the tabs does the same from a cognitive load perspective, as does the accordion down here. But each one of these works to help engage that learner more and make it so that the learner is actively involved in their learning and staying focused and retaining the information that we've got. So as you continue through, we'll continue to add in numerous other elements. You can see we've got a number of others, like a general card that can come in. Go back into the editor. So we have general cards that could be added. Which allow you to just chunk information so it's easier to see. We've got quotes that are available that allow you to work through there. You can see I've got drag handles so I can adjust things around as I need to in order to make things work better. I also see an outline where I can see all of the different sections in here and be able to rearrange them here as well to make it easier. So we have plenty of different options that are here. We're going to go ahead. Oh, sorry, that's not the one I wanted to get rid of. We're going to go back into our preview here so we can see what those look like. You can see the cards in there. You've got plenty of options on that, but you see now that we're able to really break up this information and make it much easier to improve your learner's experience. So from there, what's next? So there's a couple of things to think about there. So first off, why is this really the future for what you do with your learners today? And that comes down to appealing to all of those different learner styles and being able to break up the elements and keep the learner engaged throughout. But it also gives you the ability to force knowledge retrieval in different ways. So that is an important part of the learning process. When we learn, our brain stores the information and makes it available to us, but immediately we start to forget that information. So repetition is good to help that, but repeating in different ways and having to reveal information, read information, listen to information, each one of those different ways of handling things helps to improve the knowledge retention better than just repeating it. So that is a key element as you go through is to start using these in different ways on different pages to be able to make your learners retain the information better. For those of you who've been around for a while, I think it was about 10 years, there was a TV commercial that ran constantly on my TV that was on neuroplasticity and helping your memory. And I'd never heard the term neuroplasticity, but looked into it, and that's exactly what we're talking about. So it's finding different ways for your brain to store the information makes it easier to retrieve. So we want to do that and give people different ways to achieve the same thing. As far as what's next for us at CYPHER, as you've seen, we have a lot of these content elements. That is all going to be launching in the next couple of weeks, and we'll have that out there. It won't impact anything else that you already have out there for content. It will simply add in that ability to add those widgets once this is fully launched in about 2 weeks, and you'll see plenty of communications when that becomes available. All of your existing content works fine. All of the existing functionality works fine. So it will do that. After that, we'll be adding in the capability for our AI course creation to use these same widgets. So that will come in, and rather than just generating text, video, images, you'll be able to see interactive elements added in and provide that feedback to the AI agent as well when you want to include specific items. So that will be coming next on the front of our content builder. And then in next quarter and into third quarter, we'll continue to add additional widgets. So we have our set of widgets that are available now with the accordions, the flip boxes, columns, grids, but we're planning to add more as we continue through. And that's also an opportunity for you all to provide feedback to us on what's working and what else you would like to see, either through our support forums. We've got our suggestions area there, or if you're in discussions with your customer success manager, they all share that information with me as well. So feel free to share those ideas, and they'll be happy to get that information to us, and we'll see if we can add that into a future version of the content builder as we launch that. So with that, that finishes up what I had planned for our discussion today.
Yeah.
So I know I've got a few questions that have come in,
Yes, you
so
do.
let's start working through those.
Do you want me to read them off to you?
Sure.
All right. So does this engagement menu only appear as a module configuration feature if we add a specific widget?
So this will always be on the left with the editor once this is launched. So you will always see this as you go through that.
All right. We have a question about if this impacts the use of the immersive reader for pages.
It does not. I do not have Immersive Reader installed on this page, but the Immersive Reader does work with the content builder content.
Awesome. And the last one, saying this is super exciting. I'm so glad you think so. And it wants to know if all the widgets meet accessibility requirements.
Yes, so as I mentioned, the Immersive Reader, which is one of our accessibility functions, is already tested throughout all of that. Everything that we've gone through so far has passed every accessibility requirement in what we have out there today. We'll continue to test as each new one comes through, but yes, they do meet the WCAG accessibility requirements.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, if that is it for questions, I really want to thank Mark for giving us both the overview of the features and the why behind it, and the how to really leverage these and make them really powerful. Hope you enjoyed this. You will, as with all big feature announcements, we will send out an email to you. However, if your main contact email is your billing address, you might not see it. But if you got this this invitation, you will probably also get the product feature announcement. Also, watch our product news page, the Zoho Support Hub. We post product documentation there and announcements and so on. So we'll keep you posted in all the channels we currently have available to us about when this is available to you. Um, and oh, we got one late question. If adding a video at the end of a complete lesson would add to the learning. So this is more of a, I guess, an
Yeah, it's more of
approach.
a theoretical question, and it doesn't necessarily be at the end. Anywhere throughout, you're literally just trying to make this more varied to keep the learner switching styles, basically, to keep them engaged. So video is one key element of that. So having a wrap-up video is a way to certainly achieve that, or you could have a video in the middle to break it up. Either one works.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you to Mark, our presenter, and thank you all for attending. We will send out this recording so that you can have it, share it with your colleagues, and refer to it. As always, all of our recordings are available on our YouTube channel or on our website under resources. Look for the CYPHER Lives for these kind of product demo sessions, or the CYPHER Pro Tips for more of the approach, thought leadership things. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.